Okay, I'm really liking this intro music. I just absolutely love it. And my son Shane produced that for us, so I like it even more. I'm Ric Drasin. Welcome to Ric Drasin Live. You know, every week we talk about nutrition and fitness and bodybuilding and exercise and getting in shape and staying young and not growing old, losing your hair, which we know about. And I have special guests. And today I have a man who is really special to me. I mean, because this goes way back to the beginning of bodybuilding with the brand. And he is the managing director of World Gym franchise. And I'm really happy to have Guy Cammilleri.
Thanks, Rick. Super excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here because we have so much to talk about. And you know, it started way back. And I told you I wanted to mention Joe Gold because a lot of people don't know that Joe Gold, the grandfather of bodybuilding, basically next to Joe Weider, started Gold's Gym in was it 1965.
Yeah.
And then he sold the gym, and then later on he branched out and opened up World Gym, which you have now.
Right.
And people don't realize when you say, who's Joe Gold today, they don't know who Joe Gold is. And it's really too bad because he was the innovator of all the equipment and everything that we did and back in the golden era. The bodies that came out of that gym that were phenomenal, actually even compared to today's bodies. And then he moved on, and then he got rid of the gym and it moved around, and then your mother purchased it, right?
Right.
Joy?
Yeah. Joyce.
Joyce, yes. And can we show a picture? There they are, right there, with your brothers.
Good-looking crew.
Yeah, it's a good-looking crew. I just I wished I was in the photo. I'm not.
We do have photos with you.
Okay, yes, you do. But we don't have them here.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the day back when Joe had World Gym. I mean, it was really, really, really nice.
Yeah.
It was one of a kind.
Yeah.
And then he franchised it out, right?
Yes.
And then what happened with it from there?
Well, it's my understanding that when Joe started World Gym in 1976, that, I mean, his intent was to create the best gym for bodybuilders in the world.
Right.
And of course, he had that when he originally started Gold's Gym, and he sold that, and so he fast forward several years, and he realized he's not ready for retirement yet. Time to build the newest, best gym, and he couldn't call it Gold's anymore, so came up with a new name, World Gym.
Right.
And so
by Joseph Sidney Gold.
I didn't even know that. Is that his middle name?
Yeah, he said, I sold my name. I can't use the name Gold's Gym, but it said World Gym owner Joseph Sidney Gold. Sidney was his middle name.
Oh, so he couldn't even use his Joe Gold name in association with World Gym. I didn't know that.
Not at all.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. But yeah, it's my understanding that he didn't want to license the concept at all in the beginning. He just wanted the best gym for bodybuilders in the world.
Right.
And because he's Joe Gold, of course, and all of you guys, Arnold, yourself, Lou,
Right.
I assume that you probably split time between the original Gold's Gym and now the World Gym he opened up in Main Street, right?
Well, it's really funny because Gold had moved at that time. I think they moved over on 2nd Street in Santa Monica, and everybody went over there. And then Joe opened the gym at 2210 Main Street.
Right.
And I lived right across the street on Strand.
Yeah.
And all the guys that were with Joe back in those days were very loyal to him, and none of us went to Gold. We went to World Gym.
Okay.
And that's where I went.
Okay.
I had to keep my loyalty to him, and then of course of World as well. And it was just wonderful because we had the same crew back, and Gold's had changed. It had a different crew.
Sure.
So, and then he moved again to over by Brooks.
Yeah.
It's a gymnastics building now.
Oh, Abbott Kinney. That area.
Abbott Kinney, yeah.
Okay.
And then he moved into the old Sizzler.
Okay.
And by that time, I was living in the Valley, so I didn't want to schlep on the 405 every day, but I'd always stop by and visit on the weekends.
What's the story about, did you mention at one point that Joe actually opened up a World Gym near you in the Valley?
Oh, this is really funny. I was driving back and forth from Sherman Oaks to Santa Monica to train every day, and it was getting to be, for me, I was getting really upset with traffic. I was having road rage.
Yeah.
I can't do this every day. So he opened up a gym in Panorama City on Nava Street, a World Gym.
Okay.
And I said, that's great. He says, yeah, I opened it for you so you wouldn't have to drive so far. And you know, it was a really good gym because it was like all of his gyms. It had all of his homemade equipment. It had the bell-handled dumbbells. He didn't have heat or air conditioning.
Yeah.
So in the summertime, it was like 120 degrees. In the winter, it was 30.
Yeah.
And I'd go in and pick up those dumbbells. They were like icicles, and I literally got pneumonia. I almost had to go in the hospital because there was no heat.
Wow.
But it was a great gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not like that today. I mean, it's like
Right.
it's so far beyond that now, but it's something that will always
Sure.
stick in my mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So fast forward a few years after Joe founded World Gym in 1976, he, I think, because Gold's Gym had started licensing, and so people thought, well, Joe Gold himself is with World Gym now.
Right.
Maybe World Gym will license. And I think at first he got some overtures, which he just turned away.
Right.
Because I don't think that was his interest. But then he just realized, I do have the best gym in the world.
Yes.
why not license it? Why not franchise it? And so I think it was in 1981 where they sold the first franchise to a gentleman in Ohio, I think it was. And from then on out, it just continued to grow. And grow and
he
grow.
also had Arnold with him.
Yep.
And then Mike Uris, his attorney, which backed him up on that, and then made the business work. And then Louis Ferrigno, of course.
Sure.
So he had the name people that were there as part of the gym and part of Joe Gold. I mean, these were his buddies. And Joe originally in '65, when he built the first gym, was to get the guys out of the beach because the weather on the beach was so hard to train when it was rainy and this and that. He had a cinder block building. Everybody come and train in my gym, and it was like $40 a year. And if you didn't have the money, come train in my gym anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So it evolved quite a way.
Yeah.
And now your interest started in bodybuilding, fitness, or what?
Yeah, so when my brothers and I were little kids, our dad was a bodybuilder.
That's right.
An amateur bodybuilder. He'd compete sometimes even. And he would just bring us along to the gym when he would work out. And so we just fell in love with working out. He taught us how to do it. And I think you've heard me share this story before. I'm probably the black sheep in my family because I only work out 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah.
So, but no, we just always loved it and we're around it. And so fast forward all these years, and it's our association with World Gym is one of those really cool small world stories.
Right.
Our corporate attorney, one of our corporate attorneys, happens to be Mike Uritz's corporate attorney.
Right.
And when Joe Golda passed away in 2004 and willed the company to Mike, and Mike was trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step for him and his family's life, he was considering, let's find good stewards for the brand to move it to the next level. And so we started talking to him at that time, and introduced by our mutual attorney friend. And it didn't work out that time. Planet Fitness ultimately bought it in 2006. But it didn't work out with Planet Fitness, as we all know. So they called me in 2008, and we started talking again. And fortunately, that time it worked. And my mom, Joyce Cammilleri, bought World Gym, and she really thought, this is one of the few things in the world that she could invest in that her entire family, her 3 adult sons, would love working in together. So despite, as you know, in any family, all the kids are different, we have different interests, but there's one thing that sort of binds our family, and it's sort of our interest in fitness.
Sure.
And having grown up in the 70s and 80s in Southern California, there were 2 big brands, that were the name in fitness, Gold's Gym and World Gym.
Right.
So when we had an opportunity to get involved with World Gym, not only were we excited about that, but we had felt that the entire fitness industry had sort of left the original Muscle Beach behind, had sort of forgotten about bodybuilding and forgotten about where the entire modern global fitness movement came from. And what we were excited to do is to reach back into history, embrace Joe Gold, embrace Muscle Beach, embrace Hollywood and Southern California, and all the folks associated with World Gym, such as yourself and Lou and Arnold and Eddie, and take it and create something special. It doesn't mean we can't create a broader experience for people who experience fitness in different ways.
Sure, of course.
But we felt like we could become a much better brand by honoring the roots from which we came, and we think that distinguishes us.
Well, it's evolved a lot because back in the days when we were training, there were very few bodybuilders. Might have been a dozen of us in Santa Monica. And we were big, we were a good size, and people look at us like, look at those freaks walking down the street, right? Nobody really understood what it was all about. And then you fast forward to now, and you look around at a lot of the men and women. Most people are in really good shape. They're not necessarily bodybuilders. They don't want to be bodybuilders, but they want to be good and athletic, good abs, lean and hard.
Sure.
And I actually prefer that type of body, lean and hard anyway, compared to the bulky look anymore. But you're going to have both anyway.
Sure.
It's just going to be that way. And then the women evolved and became like the guys, And so I think Arnold said, well, if a woman has muscles, does she look like a guy? Or if a man doesn't, does he look like a woman? I mean, there's a couple of things going on there. But I think that fitness has grown so much. And the World Gym, I mean, I've seen, we have some photos of Vincent of the gym, of World Gym. Can you pop those up there, please? It's come so far with equipment. I mean, look at that state-of-the-art stuff. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's one thing that we've focused on is taking advantage of all the improvements with equipment and access to fitness-related product, but at the same time, do it in such a way where, like if you noticed in those photos, there's still this industrial look to it. There's still the cinder block walls.
Yeah, of course.
In many cases, and the bold color and the sort of more the graphics and the more bold images. I'm sure in Joe's original gym there weren't all the bold colors and bold graphics, but what we're trying to convey in a 21st century sense is, hey, this is a gym. This is a place you come to work out.
Exactly.
And come in and get your serious workout on. And we're proud of that.
They tried that with Jack LaLanne gyms back in the day. I mean, they did okay, but they were all chrome weights with padded floors and carpets and it just wasn't conducive to hard training.
Sure.
I worked in one of them, and I did work out hard, but it just something about it I didn't like.
Yeah.
What you've done is you've taken the old school and kept it old school, but modernized it.
Sure.
And it still works.
Yeah.
And it has that hardcore feel, which is what I like, and a lot of people like it too.
Yeah.
I like to pull up, walk in, work out, get in my car, and leave.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through a bunch of stuff to get in and out of there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nutrition back then has evolved as well. We were talking about the Paleo diet, which basically is the Zone diet, the Beverly Hills diet, the Atkins diet. And back in the days of the 1940s when Steve Reeves and those guys were training in Muscle Beach, it was the bodybuilding diet. The bodybuilding diet works, people. It works. Trust me. You can build muscle and reduce body fat if you just watch your carbohydrates. You know, high protein, low carb. And so they've taken and put these different names on it.
Sure.
And people will do it now because, it has a fancy name. But we know what it is.
Absolutely. Well, and as we were talking about earlier, I've found that the whole concept of the paleo diet has gone way beyond sort of the traditional bodybuilding segment now into sort of a lot of the functional training segments, like you find CrossFitters and people like that nowadays. And really it's simple and it's so intuitive. I mean, it's basically fresh meats and vegetables, right? Yeah. Fresh meats and vegetables.
I don't agree with the vegetarian diet. Or the vegan diet, because I've seen people that do it and they're all overweight and they said, well, it's a healthy diet, but you don't look very healthy when you're 50 pounds overweight. But they're getting no protein. And protein is the key to keeping hard, lean muscle.
Sure.
And real protein. I mean, supplements are okay because I take them, but it's better to have a real meal. You can have fish, chicken, tuna, steak, lean meat.
Well, and I would think especially if you're in the gym every day or every other day, because you're breaking their muscle down, you need to rebuild it.
Exactly.
Right? So,
how many gyms do you have now around the country?
We have just around the country or world?
Well, the country means world to me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So globally, we have about 200 gyms, and I would say about 65% of our gyms are in the United States. So one thing that's been interesting to us is if you look at fitness industry statistics in general, the fitness industries are growing much faster in other parts of the world right now than in the United States. Part of that is because these other economies are emerging and people now have the discretionary income to have a gym membership, for example. But the other part of it is the fitness industry in the United States is fairly mature too. If you go to any decent sized city, there's usually 4, 5, 6 different gym brands to choose from, including the big brands you've all heard of, like World Gym, et cetera, but also independents. And then you have, on almost every other block nowadays, these little independent studios, whether it's yoga or Pilates or CrossFit or something like that. And so the choice in a place like the United States is pretty broad now. And so it's hard to, crack into that, especially if you're trying to develop a new full-size, full-service 20 or 30,000 square foot gym.
Exactly. Now, do some of these World Gyms have the other features like Pilates and they have all that?
Yeah. So it depends on the gym. World Gym evolved over the past 30 plus years with allowing a sort of a high level of discretion to the local franchisee. So if the franchisee believed they needed a functional training studio inside their gym, they built that. If they wanted a Pilates studio, they would build that. And so we have gyms that have all of those things around the country and around the world. And then we also have some gyms that are purely cardio machines and weight machines and dumbbells and free weights. So and everything in between.
If you go back to Joe Gold, when he had both gyms, there was no cardio.
Yeah.
There's no machines.
No, now in this, let's say that would be the late 70s. Were there cardio machines the way we think of them today?
No.
There weren't. Okay.
No, there was nothing. There was no treadmill, no Stairmaster, no bikes.
Well, people would get that, but they would probably just jog outside to get that.
We could go to the beach and run along the water.
Sure.
That would be the cardio.
Sure.
Or work out real fast and then breathe real hard.
Yeah.
And in fact, there were no water bottles and there was no music in the gym. According to Joe, he didn't want music in the gym. And he had no heat and no air conditioning.
Why do you think he didn't want music? Do you consider that distraction to the workout?
He said it was distraction. I like it in the gym. It gives me a rhythm to work out.
Energy.
It doesn't bother. People bring their headsets. If someone brought a radio into the gym back in the days when Joe had it, he threw them out of the gym. He said, "That's it. You're done. Membership's gone. Out of here."
Oh, wow.
And there were no water bottles. You had a drinking fountain. You want water? There's a drinking fountain. There's always a line. So, but that's how it was back then, and it worked, and it's fine. It's all fine. But basically, to get in shape back then, it was your diet. It would say, how'd you get abs and how'd you keep ripped? You watched your carbs. And that's just how it works.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the same. I think we both agree that that's the same now, right?
It is the same now.
I've always read statistics. The diet piece of the puzzle is probably 70 or 80%.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And then you have to have rest.
Yeah.
You got to have the rest, especially at your age, not mine. I got to keep going because my life is short. I got to go real fast to get through it all.
Right.
Where do you see World Gym going now?
Well, we have been super excited about what has happened in the past couple of years as we sort of stabilized the company post acquisition. Is we've kept some of the best franchisees that were in the system, and we've attracted some really great new ones. So we're really growing super fast in some countries, for example, Canada, Taiwan, Russia, India, Australia. So that's exciting. So we see the actual location of the gyms more and more representing the actual name, World Gym. And then what we've noticed, we've caught on some interesting trends here in the United States that I think is going to enable the brand to grow more rapidly here. Even though it's a very mature market from a fitness industry perspective, like I was talking about earlier. So we're excited about that. When we took over the company 5 years ago, we took over a company that was all franchises and no corporate gyms.
Right.
And so we technically were a franchisor as opposed to a gym operator.
Right.
And so one of our goals now is to start opening gyms here in Southern California.
I know you were looking for locations.
And we're still looking. We're excited about that. It's tough, in the Los Angeles area, it's tough because the rents are so high.
And parking?
It's hard to find enough parking. You need a lot of parking for a gym. And so
you need an old supermarket.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly.
In the right location, of course.
The difficulty with that, too, is a lot of times cities would prefer other types of retailers because the sales tax income to the city is higher than you get from a gym. So we've struggled with that too when we're battling, with maybe another retailer to get
I knew
space.
that too because you just can't go open a business unless the city approves what the business is.
Sure.
And some don't want gyms.
Yep.
So it's got
you could be in negotiating. You could be in a lease or negotiating a lease agreement while talking to the city, and the city completely gives you all sorts of resistance because they're not interested in any gyms.
Now, World Gym Apparel.
Yes.
The shirts, the sweatshirts, the caps, they're available to the public.
Right.
Off a website.
Yes.
And what's the website?
The website is shopworldgym.com.
Right.
But it's also, if you go to the worldgym.com website, there's a
link?
tab that says shop.
Okay.
You click on that, or apparel, click on that,
Okay.
it brings you over. But now, most of your audience probably knows this, but you were the original designer.
Well, I was going to bring that up, but I didn't want to pat myself on the back.
Right. Well, let me pat you on the back, and then you can talk about it.
Okay. So the thing is that if you want to buy World Gym Apparel, which I think you need to go out and do like right now, because the Rick tells you got to wear it because it's got the World Gym gorilla. Who designed that logo, Guy?
Well, Rick, let me tell you, this is a great bodybuilder and wrestler and famous celebrity out of Muscle Beach named Ric Drasin.
Oh, I think I know him.
Designed the logo. And,
I see him every morning.
Yeah. And I didn't dare show up today without the logo on my chest.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Well, it's available on the worldgym.com website. It has a link to the clothing, and there's other things. There's baseball caps and all kinds of goodies.
Right.
And where can we reach you on Facebook?
Yep. On Facebook or through worldgym.com.
Okay.
All of us at World Gym have sort of basically our name, guy.cammilleri@worldgym.com.
Okay,
so.
and you respond to every email personally, right?
Absolutely.
All right. That's what you do all day.
That's what I do all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you had a tip for somebody today in today's world, based on what we're talking about, what would you tell that person to do with their life?
With their life?
Yeah. You've got 3 seconds. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Be happy.
Yeah.
Oh, is that generic or what?
That's generic.
Yeah.
Regarding fitness.
Regarding fitness.
Because so many people need it.
Yeah. Fix your diet.
Right.
Get lots of good sleep.
Right.
Reduce stress as much as possible, and find a World Gym near you.
The last line is exactly the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a really good pleasure having you here. We have so much to
great.
talk about, and we could probably talk for hours, but we're limited on time because the show's limited on time. And Vincent, I love the music you did for me. Bring it up again so I can hear it because I really like it. And I just think this is really great. I'm really glad you came down to do this.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for being here.
So great to be part of it.
And I want you people to tune in every week at 12:30 for Ric Drasin Live because I'm going to have more guests. Not as good as Guy maybe, but it's good. And I look forward to seeing you here. And thank you for watching Ric Drasin Live. Stay tuned next week at 12:30, emPOWERme.tv. I'll be here, brother. Hi, I'm Ric Drasin. For tips on health and nutrition and fitness and bodybuilding and wrestling and all the stuff you want to know, subscribe to me on emPOWERme.tv. I'm on every Friday at 12:30 p.m. I'm